Wow, wow, wow. Boop, bap, bap, boop. Ba-da-la. 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 Ba-ra-da-da-da-da. Ow, wow, wow, wow. Ba, ba, boom, ba-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. I don't even know what song it is. All I know is it starts with a cool saxophone solo. Ba-ra-da-da-da-da. Do, bam, bam, boom. Greetings, programs. Hi, guys.
Greetings, programs.
I don't know what's wrong with my voice. Hey, everybody. It's your old buddy B over here. Hi. Hankering Fernail here. And look at all this. Look at all this. Wow. It's all Runehammer. The whole thing you see, everything the light touches is Runehammer. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. It's Friday afternoon, and she a big old day. She a big old day. Let me tell you about that. There we were. 10,000 miles of sand and hard pan ahead of us, and behind the doom and flames of the chaos of our passing. Our quest would not be easy. The desert was relentless, heat upon heat, and nights as cold as the will of a hag witch. But in time, months of hiking, dragging, slogging, the deepest dunes and the darkest moons. Lo! Did we see an oasis there? Palm trees up on the rise. And henceforth did we go upon yon days and weeks. A fortnight later, we mounted the great crest of sand like a cornice of ancient times, spilling over us a great gray and brown wave in the sunset. And beyond that peak, we found it. Sweet, cool, trickling water and palm trees as far as the eye could see. Now, I guess that's where I'd probably say the RPG mainframe. But we're not here to talk about the RPG mainframe. We're here to talk about other stuff. Hey, don't you ever say I stopped wearing beanies. I didn't stop wearing beanies. Beanies stopped wearing me. All right. Wow. Hi, everybody. We are here. We are sitting in chairs. We are looking at screens. It could be your computer screen. It could be your Fizzone. It could be on your TV if you're one of those crazies who watch YouTube on your 2V. Actually, speaking of weird mind crosses like that, we've started calling the Benjamin Franklin Parkway the Benjamin Frankway Parkland. I don't know why. Hi, everybody. Okay, welcome back. Happy Friday to y'all. And well, why the heck are we here? I'll tell you why. As of yesterday, sweet Crown and Skull. Boy, it has been a long journey. And we had to do a little homework on the Discord to look back. This has almost been a 3-year journey, that's crazy to think about. Absolutely crazy. Just from cryptic mentionings of maybe an idea to yesterday. So, as many of you know, and a lot of you, and thank you, by the way, participated in the pre-sale of Crown and Skull, and that's great. And so you've been waiting, and that was a 2-month wait, just almost exactly, just over 2 months, 2 months and 9 days, 2 months and 12 days, something like that. Anyway, that was our turnaround from pre-sale to getting those books in the mail to you. I'm feeling pretty good about that. That's feeling pretty quick. I'm feeling John Cena good about that. I think the older I get, I'm gonna start looking like John Cena, only bigger. Anyways, as of yesterday, the books are all in And thank you. A big shout out to my man Saul, goes out for helping us out. And a big shout out goes to my man Kane over at Kane's Kiln. So if you don't already follow Kane's Kiln, then you just don't know what's up. That is my man right there. Couldn't have done it without you. Um, and yeah, like just the number of buttons to be clicked to get us to where we're just in normal mode now. So I don't really want the whole stream to be about it, but if you hop over to runehammer.online, um, you can get in there. You can order your crown and skull. Okay, so we don't need to like get into all that kind of like plugging and advertising stuff. What I thought might be a little more interesting is a lot of you out there have been living that brutal PDF life. You know what I mean? It's the span between you order the thing and you get the book in your hands. You got to deal with like living off a PDF a little bit. And then also, my man House came out with his video like Johnny on the spot yesterday, and about Crown and Skull. And right away, I noticed that the most questions he was getting was about these sort of scratch built spells. Okay, so I wanted to open up the floor on this glorious Friday afternoon to all y'all. Anything you want to know about Crown in general, let's get it out there in the open. But I want to kick it off by volunteering some thoughts about scratch building spells. So yeah, you can see the basic and gold editions right up there on my bookshelf, just looking glorious. But to answer some of those questions that were coming bombing in on House's channel, House DM is where you want to go drop a sub on that. You got to mash that bell, y'all. Anyway, it's a point-based system, and the DNA of this point spend system to make your own spells. Well, it's got some parts and pieces to it, because on the one hand, this asks a lot of the player. Now, in the sort of Vancian tradition, D&D from its old days to its new days, D&D proper, I guess you could call it. You get a level, you got a short list of spells to choose from. You make that selection and you are done. And you usually make that selection based on either knowledge of what you sort of are wanting or just on thematic fit to your wizard character, right? Your magic user. And that's it. You're done. Then when the time comes up and you want to cast that baby, you want to cast that spell, you just look it up. There's a little blob of text. And in the tradition of D&D, the text is usually insanely repetitive to the text of other spells. Like we did a funny thing. When was that last year? We looked at how many times in the 5th edition Player's Handbook that 30 feet that you can see is said. And it was 600 and some times that phrase was said. Somebody somewhere didn't think you could just say that as a rule. And yeah, no, every spell has to say that little blurb anyway. But that's a really simple, and you cast it once, you forget it, you rest to get it back, right? I mean, this is like foundational D&D common language that we all speak, to use Frank Mincer's term. But not in Crown and Skull, my friends. We are going straight off the map. We are leaving tradition behind, and we are kind of daring this crazy zone. So scratch built spells can come in a limitless number of forms, and they are constructed by balancing the effect of a spell and the limitations of a spell. Now, in the simplest form, you're going to have like defaults. And so I might want to get Magic Missile, right? Let's keep it super simple over there, Hankerin. All right, so Magic Missile is a default amount of damage, a one shot. Pew, it's instant. Pew, I get one cast. Pew. It has no deleterious or mercurial effects. It has no material requisition. The defaults are ultra simple. So much so, they're almost like the Vancian system itself. When you just buy yourself something like a 3-point spell in its most default state, okay? So that's like, hey, I just kind of want to play Crown and Skull. I don't want to get into all this. I just want Magic Missile, just like I know it from D&D. All right, well, deduct 3 points, and maybe you have this many, maybe you have that many, and you got it. There you go. See, you can keep things exactly as you like them. But then there's this other dude or or young lady. Right? There's someone else who wants to get in there and tinker and go batshit nuts with it. Dan, my man, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Um, and that's where scratch building spells comes in. So, for the examples that I built, I want to zero in on one that I really thought was cool when I was sort of working on all this. This is, at least almost 2 years ago. So basically, an ice spell where I can encase a target, be it a person or an object, in ice. And then also, because of the my power over ice, I also can shape that encasement into a highly convincing duplicate of myself. Not only can I do that, I can do it on multiple targets. So I can do like a Doctor Strange level spell, right? I want to make between 1 and 6 ice clones of myself that are highly convincing, at least at a glance, while also incapacitating the foes that are encased in said ice. Now, this is a lot. This is a lot to take in. But with Crown and Skull's scratch build spell system, as long as I have that vision, we can work through it quite simply, especially if you're GM or maybe you have a veteran Crown player next to you. What are the effects? List them off. Well, they're ba, 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 and ba. Maybe I have 4 of them. And effects just have a cost. So I'm looking at it like a 12-point spell. I'm like, bro, I don't have 12 points. You kidding me? Like, just to get my skills and my basic gear, like I'm low, man. So now what I do is I take limitations to get a discount on that spell cost. And then on and on I go. Limitations are all the things that you know from spells in all the games you've ever played. Maybe a spell lives in an object. If that object is lost or destroyed, so is the spell. Maybe a spell requires a rare little piece of material or a reagent. And once you're out of that, it is uncastable. That would be a limitation. Maybe the spell is unstable or infernal, meaning that you need to resist the urge for this spell to fly out of control. All these different and familiar things that limit spell casting are going to discount the cost of your spell. So the fine art of spell making in Crown and Skull is to push that value, that cost, as high as you can, and then think up as many discounts as you can without just putting yourself into a highly dangerous and unstable situation, unless that's what you're into, to find the harmonic point of cost you can afford. Now, of course, you're earning hero points during play, basically experience, and you always have less than you think you're gonna. Getting skills in Crown and Skull always gets a little more expensive than you think it's going to be, at least in my experience. I've played quite a few games at this point. So the art of creating spells works just that way. It's really all about having that clear vision of a spell that's probably based on something else you played or something you saw or another player you saw do it. It always comes from somewhere. You're like, I want to do that. Like that caster in the first season of Castlevania. She had the dopest elemental magic style. I want to recreate the like 3 or 4 spells that she was always doing. All right, well, let's get those ideas out in the open and build them. Now, this is definitely a certain level of hobbyism that is not for everyone. A lot of people might find this to be sort of fiddly, I guess you could call it. And these same rules all apply to equipment creation, using effects and limitations in a budget balancing game. But to be quite frank about it, Crown and Skull is probably not for everyone. It, to me, harkens to a kind of role playing game that isn't its stated goal anyway, isn't necessarily like mass, just this way everyone who's ever liked D&D will like this. I don't think that is Crown and Skull's stated mission. I think its mission is much more like there's a frontier over there and I want to press it. Now, don't get me wrong. Pressing the frontier, one must always acknowledge those who got us this far in the journey. And knowing those titans upon whose shoulders I walk is a critical part of Crown and Skull. And as I mentioned briefly, there's a lot of DNA inside Crown and Skull that is owed to first edition Fantasy Hero from 1985. That was a hugely influential game on me and has largely been lost in obscurity, but had some really great design DNA that did not, in my opinion, age that well because of its complexity and its demand on the hobbyist. But with all these years that have passed since 1985, 40 years, that's pretty wild. So in a way, I've been working on Crown and Skull for about 40 years. With all that time, as well as with the advancements that happened in my thinking in Viking Death Squad, when you put those things together, you kind of get Crown and Skull, at least its game mechanics. And so the first thing I wanted to get out in the open is just an overview of scratch built spells in Crown and Skull. Now, this may not be for everybody, but I can say for a player like me, this is heaven. This is getting in there, and doesn't mean necessarily always making complex creations. It can mean making cleverly simple creations, but they're your creations. And for some, this may feel a little bit like too blank of a canvas. And so I do just want the basic spells. Just show me a list. And those lists are in the book as well. So I'd like to support those kind of folks as well. But that's my kind of short answer on the questions that I saw about scratch built skills, spells. Good grief, on House DM's YouTube video from yesterday. So that's how I wanted to kick it up. My man John Harper is in the house. What up, my dude? We are among mighty company. The author of Blades in the Dark, a truly innovative role-playing thinker, and a lifer. Good to have you, brother. Solomon Kane is up in here. Professor Dungeon Master, as always, chilling in the shadows. He's grading us all right now. You don't even know that. But we're all getting grades. And he's not just going to give us letter grades. He's going to give us snide comments on our papers. Like, what did you say, man? That you had like a stamp that says Zeus approves or something? Like you're bringing the Greek gods into high school grading. I don't know how I feel about that. That's a lot of weight for me to bear. Yeah, let's open it up. Why not? My man Lee is in here. Yeah, Crown and Skull versus IP. Well, the short answer, Lee, thanks for the question. Basically, they're opposites. They're almost diametric opposites. And remember, I lived in ICRPG land for over 7 straight years. I really put my heart and soul into that. But also, ICRPG is built to be a contained book. It was a stated mission not to make a bunch of peripheral books, but to have a single book. And so moving into Crown and Skull, what I wanted to do, instead of building on ICRPG, I wanted to just completely go the opposite direction. Meaning really going into a bespoke kind of an erudite, handcrafted vibe for the deep hobbyist. Whereas ICRPG's stated mission is everybody get in here, grab the Doritos, get a 6-pack of beer, get in here. We're playing D&D the fast, crazy, fun way. Crown and Skull has a much more sort of dimly lit library vibe to it. If that makes any sense at all. Whereas ICRPG is index cards and Sharpies as far as the eye can see. Yo, Brian Smith, what's up? Are intelligence swords whack or not? Well, I like how you put that into an A or B format, but clearly not. Intelligence swords are dope. It's exactly how they're played that can be a little intelligent swords are great, but they require all the foundational GM skills that make playing in general sick, right? And not annoying. So absolutely, intelligence swords like Scheherazade is probably one of them. I think that's how you pronounce it. One of the most annoying intelligence swords of all time. There, of course, is the Critical Role intelligence sword that gets so much attention. But to me, the best intelligence swords say very little, and they almost resemble the sad butler character from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That is a really good sword personality. not something that's overbearing. And this goes for almost all NPCs. Don't be overbearing, and an intelligent sword is no different. I hope that answered your question, Brian. Thank you for that. Yeah, please, proper sentence structure. I do not have the vest of protection. I have the new Runehammer drip +3 strength, or either that or it's +2 con. I don't know. So, yes, the Runehammer has upgraded itself from Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, to Hugin and Munin, the ravens of Odin, are now going to be our sort of our core image, our mascot, our concept around which we rally. I really identify with Hugin and Munin as these sort of scouts. They both serve and always surprise Odin in a way. They serve him as his scouts and his knowledge gatherers, but they always have a slightly mysterious component even to Odin himself. And there's something really cool about that. Odin himself is almost too much of an image, right? That's too heavy of a mascot to put the All Father. That's our logo. That's a lot. But Hugin and Munin to me are like sort of humble in a really cool way, and so I really identify with them. That's the sort of the right hand man kind of vibe. That's a cool vibe. Hey, my man Daniel. Oh wait, we got E first. How often do you give out mundane loot? Almost never. As you may know, E, instead of hit points in Crown and Skull, you have skills and equipment. Those are your hit points. So finding equipment would basically be like finding hit points. So the Crown and Skull GM is encouraged to basically never really offer mundane equipment. And one of the ways that we do this is that when foes are defeated, their equipment is considered mostly destroyed in the process of their defeat. So a classic way of thinking of it is you have a city guard who is attacking you with a halberd, and you have a great sword, and you chop him down and make the kill. And as you do this, you cut through the haft of his polearm and break apart the chest plate, and and that's how you make this sort of violent kill with a great sword. So when something like that happens, you don't instantly bend down and go like, I wonder if I could take his armor. So the mindset of looting corpses is generally just completely abolished. Now, of course, like all rules in all role-playing books, this is up to GM taste. But that's how I do it. I almost never give out mundane stuff. Finding loot is very special, which to me is much more like the ancient world. I don't imagine in the ancient world that you find tons of gear laying around. Like if you think about even Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship doesn't just find that much, but when they do find stuff, it's fucking glamdring. Like Gandalf is poking around. They're getting chased by orcs and whatnot. And he's just like, yo, what's this sword over here? And it's freaking glamdring, like forged in the Rainbow Cataract. It's fucking great. Wait, what are the odds? Oh, look, Goblin Cleaver is also laying here. +2 drip. That's it. Okay, now, Daniel, here, I'm back down to you, Souza. Will there ever be a perfect system? How close it is? Well, if there is something perfect, it won't stop our appetite for more. I do think something that maybe the recent years have shown us is that there really doesn't need to be a center point to what we do as hobbyists. In skateboarding, there doesn't need to be one skateboard that's better than all the others, and it's no different with role playing. We don't need one rule set to bind them, to bring them all, and we don't need that. We are GMs and we are players, and we can synthesize all kinds of things. And honestly, the collecting and exploring of different things is a huge part of the fun. So a centralization or a sort of a a consolidation of the hobby under a brand, for me, that's bad. That's like consolidating genetics. Not good. Variety is your friend, bro. Like seriously, you want diversity and variety in human populations, and you also want it in your role-playing games. um How do you know when your RPG is done? Wow, Charles coming in with the heavy hitting question. Thanks for the question, man. You don't. You if you're like me and this is how you survive, you need to reach a point where you call it done, man. You're never done. You can always make things better. So you do need to reach a point where you say this is it, and that goes with development, with writing, with playtesting, even with proofing. We did more proofing on this book than I care to look back upon and think about. There is one hilarious typo, and you get a booby prize if you can find it. But I seriously think I have never seen so few reports of errors on a book release as this one. So I'm proud of that. But man, was it a painful process. So the answer, it's never quite done. You're just going to reach a point where you say, that's it for now. Ship it. And hey, Lewis, what's up, my man? What's been the range of total minuses your players have been designing on their starting characters? So basically what Lewis is asking is, for a starting character, about how many sort of flaws and limitations are you seeing adding up to help them save points? I would say usually you look at like 9 to 15. Anything more than that, you're getting too unstable and risky and crazy. Like 2 flaws is already a lot of flaws to take, because flaws will constantly come into your role play. So you got to be really careful taking a flaw. And then other things like unstable magic, which is rolling against mercurial effects. It looks really cool on paper. You're like, yo, I played DCC, man. I roll mercurial magic all day, every day. But if all your spells are saving cost by making them unstable, people don't want to hang out with you. so you have to be careful taking too many limitations on a character, that you get into these kind of unstable, crazy situations where your friends are getting annoyed. Solomon coming in with the question, will Runehammer dice be a 7-piece set? They are a 7-piece set, and they are not themed around Crown and Skull. Remember, Crown and Skull is only one of my... how many books do I even have now? I think over a dozen, but Crown and Skull is only one sort of planet in the Runeverse. So they are not themed on Crown and Skull. They are themed to Runehammer itself. Yeah, Brian Perez, I'm a little bit with you on that one. I do think the Murder Hobo is a slightly darker character than the Corpse Looter, but the Corpse Looter can be a breaker of believability in some ways. Dreadbolt, if you'd like to buy ICRPG, head right over to runehammer.online. Okay, here comes E again with the follow-up. Since loot is HP with attrition, yep. Characters going back to town to repair their mundane items. Well, sure. If they're repairable, why not? Or repair them on the spot. If you're that desperate, there are skills for that. They're somewhat risky, because if you've ever tried to fix anything in the field, like a machine or clothes or armor, you know that it's quite risky to do when you're hiking on a trail. It's a crazy time to try to fix your backpack. If you haven't tried to do that, then you might not be familiar with how hair-raising that can be. I've been through that experience. So fixing things in town or with time is always better. Basically what a lot of role players will think of as rest in this case is mending gear while resting. But you can mend gear in the field, but not all attrition in Crown and Skull is just damage or disable. There is also destroy level attrition. So that is where your precious crossbow has been annihilated, especially when you're talking about things like acid and so on and so forth. Attrition can also take a form where it only harms flesh, such as poison. You can't poison a crossbow. And so flesh attrition really just works against your skills. So the way that Crown and Skull explains it is that, like, a classic way to think of it is to have a jump skill and to take a hit to the knee. You know what I mean? You get hit with a bat in the side of the knee, you are not going to be jumping, bro. You're not going to be in the long jump the next day at the track and field meet. That skill is currently crossed off. You're going to have to rest. And so that's how that kind of all comes together. My man, Lawful Chaotic Neutral. So he's got it covered. Easily the best alignment. The best thing about all alignments is that it's the best alignment. What is the main vibe at the table when you compare Crown and Skull and OSE. Well, that's a really thanks for the question, LCN. In the case of Crown, I would like to believe, and from what I've seen so far, it brings a ton of vibe to the table. And some systems don't want to do that; they want to be more neutral. I think OSE, because its roots are so old, it doesn't bring a lot of mood to the table. It just wants to bring you a simple, clean delivery of classic rules. So it's not really occupied with tone because it acknowledges the world of creative tone that's out there. But Crown and Skull definitely plants its flag on its own mood and tone, and it establishes this with a huge portion of the book. It's a 360 page book, and only 40 pages of it are really the core rules. So it gets all into the world, the tone, the mood, the people, the equipment, the books. I love what books always say about a world. So there's a whole section on the rare books that exist in the North Holds. The map, the way the enemies are written and described, it definitely creates a place, a sense of place. And from what I'm being told, not just from myself, but from my readers so far, that's almost their favorite thing. It isn't even necessarily like, oh, this is my favorite role-playing system ever made. It's more just like reading this is a journey into a sort of a headspace. So I would like to think, Chaotic Neutral, that a lot, that the main vibe is there's a ton of it coming in, and Crown and Skull, as the name I hope implies, has a bit of a dark, somewhat ominous, but very, touchable, very very tangible vibe, very human. There's blood in the dirt here, and you can feel the grit between your fingers. And like, I think a lot of games aspire to that, but time will tell if I've achieved it here. Yeah, Ted. Hey, I'm right there with you on salivating over the dice, and we are. I've already made the first sort of big like production payment on those. Not to get too realistic on you, but those babies are underway. So we're going to get those made as fast as we can. It does take a little bit of time. So keep your eyes open for those. But once again, as someone who plays, once, twice a week, I tried to bring that to the design of these dice. Dice really for the constant player, the grinder player who's always at the table. And I hope that really comes through for everyone. I can't wait. My man Jordan, what's up, dude? Uh, Adventures for ICRPG on the horizon. Well, so far we've got several. I think there are about 5 main ones, and there is a full adventure. Probably my favorite one is in the book. It's right in the book. So that is Storm Point Asylum, is that adventure. And then I've written several now for my Hex zine. As for third-party publishing, that is not set up yet. We just got, remember, we're not using any help of any kind. So we had to set up our entire production, fulfillment, and shipping chain completely on our own. We built this thing from scratch. And so we haven't had a ton of time and attention to put into something like third party. And also, I wanted to get books in people's hands first, because working from a PDF has limited output, limited stickiness. Now that where we're at now, and we're feeling like this flow start to happen, and like, getting questions and feeling these books heading people's way. I mean, the minute you get it in your hands, things are really going to accelerate, and then we can look into that idea. Now, from my understanding of the Orc license by Paizo, that actually offers third-party access to anything. So it protects all third-party creators using any basis on the sheer legal comprehension of how game mechanics can be used. But it also obeys the fair use policies of normal copyright law. So if you feel you're undercutting the creator that you're making material for, you probably are. That foundational spirit of copyright law remains. But short of calling out to the Orc license, I think we'll absolutely get into. I mean, third party is the shit, right? So why would we hesitate? So we'll get some answers on that soon. And thanks for the question, man. Good alley oop there. Let's see. Brian V is up in here. ICRPG miniatures. I don't think you'll see those. ICRPG does not have a cast of characters. It is a vast swath of characters from multiple worlds. So I don't think you'll see that, but you will see Viking Death Squad miniatures coming soon. And Crown would also be somewhat conducive to that. There's a small cast of characters that are really highlighted. If I want to buy Crown in Europe, is it going to arrive here? Yes. And Henrik, we got the best shipping in the business. We pay for part of shipping to further locations. So you're welcome. You know, it's always painful to see people in remote locations having to really get hit on shipping. So we do a sort of an estimated shipping system where, you know, part of that's going to be on us for some of the further shipping. And we're also fast. I don't know about y'all, but have you ordered stuff from Runehammer? It's insane. Like in some cases, just a couple days. It's really nuts. Daily Riders, that's my man. Thanks, Ted. Phases and nuances listed twice at the table. Bradley, I'm not sure what you mean. I think that is fixed. That's really hard to remember. Yeah, I now is not the time to make me well, hey, why don't we look? Let's take a look here. Can't ask a question like that. Huh, it is there twice. That's awesome. Good one. Look at that. It is there twice. Nice catch. That's two. This is the best I've ever done. I'm so excited. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it technically, though, is not a repeat. If you look even closer, it is not a repeated line. There's a little more to that. That's a fun one. Thanks. STLs of what? Whatever I do offer as miniatures, I will offer STLs, sure. Heimdall, what do your eyes see? From the first scribbles of publishing, how long did the entire creation process? If you don't count the 30-some years of build-up, just under 3 years. The first year being extremely loose thinking and thematic thinking, as well as the play that we did. Because remember, a lot of the ideas that are in Crown and Skull were played. That the events you're reading in the book were played. They aren't just sort of made up as fiction. They were played at a table, and that took us over 3 years. Oh, hey, Cameron, thank you. No, you know, Death Cap. Oh, hi, Death Cap. By the way, love your stuff. It isn't pure anxiety. It really isn't. When you're sort of rolling at the scale that we're doing what we're doing, as really just the sort of the core is sort of me creatively, with Kane as my sort of technician, and then sort of no longer small but group of people for doing proofing, some of them professionals, and then you spend months doing proofing, and you know, you sort of let go. It feels okay. You've done your best, you know, and as long as you feel you've done your best, they're actually kind of funny. And you know, it's not a ton of them. Obviously, if it was a ton of them, that would be really bad. But it just reaches a point of being like, I'm really proud of what I did, and what I did is not defined by that. And even the biggest publishers in the world have them. So yeah, you really, if you want to be a professional and do this, you have to let go of that anxiety. You will go crazy. I want a mud mini. That's pretty good. Yeah, I would like to think that we're in a really good time for indie. What was the oldest civilization in the North holds? Dwarves or something like that. Well, that would be a bit of a spoiler on future things, but the Northholds do exist in the Runeverse. Um, so I guess in the Runeverse, the oldest civilization is probably the Zevosians who built the warp shells. But that's a long reach. In the Northholds itself, it definitely would not be dwarves. It would definitely not be dwarves. It would be something far more unfamiliar. But I want to hold on that answer for now. That's a good one. We've got four more volumes of Crown and Skull to work through some of those deeper questions. But I definitely think that Caligos is one of the oldest beings in the North Holds, and so old that it you don't even know what it is. It's like a hole in a rock. It's an extremely strange entity that is very hard to pin down what it is. And those are the oldest beings. Um, Hey, Jesse, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Gundam virus. What was your favorite part of making Crown and Skull? Wow, cool question, man. Thank you. Man, my favorite part of making it? um Probably the input from others. Like seeing what the artists did that was surprising, or having someone respond to a part where I'm like kind of bouncing something off somebody and getting their kind of unexpected, like, what, really? Um, Also, the role that my wife's imagination played was a really fun delight. So sort of, saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about this thing, and I'm kind of building it up this way," and then her response being something like, "Well, maybe it's a blurb," and you'd be like, "What? It? Oh, okay, okay." So those kind of like creative surprises to me are always the most fun. It's kind of where the creation is getting a life of its own and it's traveling almost under its own momentum, and you're just sort of running after it. I'm going on an adventure, rather than chiseling it piece by piece. It's gaining its own life, and that's a really fun moment. Were there any name ideas that you tossed around before settling on Crown and Skull? Well, I knew that I wanted the book to be about the light and the dark, about the nuance that the light side and the dark side in Star Wars have. It isn't good and evil. It's far more interesting. And I knew I wanted to play with that. Um, but I no, I don't think I really had that many other titles. That just was the title. I mean, I'm kind of honestly a little bit known for that I don't really sort of waffle around. The titles just sort of almost exist without me. they just they just hit. They just drop like a stone on my work, and like there's no questioning it. You have to go with it. Um my cat eats soup. I see. That's spectacular. Death Cap again. I've been listening to the music, including Crown and Skull. Yeah, published an album for Crown and Skull, and really proud of it. That was a great deal of work. That took over a year to record those songs, and did it right here in this room on a Zoom multi-track recorder with basically a keyboard and a bunch of pedals. Um, yeah, really proud of it. What was my inspiration? Well, I'm a huge believer in the power of very carefully chosen session music. You can't just play the radio. You can't just play your favorite Iron Maiden song. You can't just play frickin' 50 Cent. You need very carefully curated session music that will go under people talking for starters, and that will also build and add to the experience of playing. And so, having done that for many, many years now, I kind of wanted to throw my hat in on what I thought would work as a frequency friendly set of music to be in a session. So of course my inspiration comes from a bunch of, instrumental kind of dungeon synth kind of ambient style bands. But I also just came from like, visualizing Crown and Skull like a movie and then putting music to it. I haven't seen any actual plays. Actual play, the most ironic term ever invented. But how quick would you say it plays? No system has a quickness with which it plays. Quickness is entirely reliant on the game master and the players. No system has anything that can be said about speed or any complexity or anything. All games are hacked by those playing them. So Crown and Skull can play faster than anything, or it can be an absolute slog of detail and tactical minutia. It is entirely up to the people playing. Entirely, 100%. You could be playing the simplest RPG imaginable, something even simpler than, say, Cairn. Tiny Dungeon. You could be playing Tiny Dungeon and have the slowest game imaginable. And you could be playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition and have the fastest game imaginable. So entirely reliant on players. And of course, I think about speed, but it's not something you can enforce as the writer. Entirely up to the people playing. And the days of needing to watch people play a game, I hope they start to pass. A spectatorship of watching people playing, to me, is a very strange way of warping how you might play. And I think it's far more interesting to discover how you and your friends would interpret text into play rather than watching people who are being filmed, by the way. They are not being themselves. They may be close to it and they may be relaxed on camera, but make no mistake, they are not being themselves when they are being filmed. So for me, the word actual in actual play is a bit of farcical comedy. It's performative play. Actual play is when you are in private with your friends playing a role-playing game. That's actual. So, yeah, I'm finicky on that one. My man Cameron almost got scrolled off the screen. Speaking of 4 more volumes, will the later books be geared toward fiction or lots of mechanics? Every book will be a mirror of the first book as far as like how much of a thing you're going to get. So in many ways, the formula of what you're going to get is established in this book, and the other volumes will imitate this sort of feel. Now, they have some variability. Volume 2 is well underway already, but each one has to include plenty of mechanics, plenty of world atlas, plenty of monsters, plenty of fiction, plenty of tables, plenty of character resources, and so on and so forth. So I want all 5 volumes to have this symmetry to them where they're really unified in that way. Arbex, cool. Look forward to hearing from him. Hey, thanks, Burrito. Okay, Arbex down here. Is there any video talking about spells in Crown and Skull? I'm very pumped about it, but can't find it. Well, I just opened this video with a discussion of scratch-built spells, but I think as these books get out into the world and more people's hands, I do think that custom building spells will be an ongoing discussion. And I did offer props out to my man Quirkville, Joe McGee, who did offer a bunch of scratch-built spells for my patrons a few months ago. So I do think building spells is going to be an ongoing topic. And Deathcap, hey, appreciate that. Thank you. That's very kind. Let's see. Just look, there's a lot going on over here, you guys. Delvers, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Right back at you. Jake, Crown seems good for overland travel, resource, sandbox. It really is made for that. No rations or supplies. Nope. How do you track the cost of travel other than encounters? You don't. You just don't. The encounters are plenty of cost. And again, just like speed, there's no way for a book to enforce this into a situation. The game master and the players will always be negotiating over the cost of travel. If you saw my most recent session recap, to me, that was a great example of the cost of travel. They had to travel between 2 towns, and to do it, they had to deal with a landslide, crashing their sleds, and a small battle with wolves. And those things cost them, and could have cost them a great deal more, or could have cost them even less. But I don't see a need, at least in this milieu, to track a sort of a gas tank. And I hope that we continue to talk about this. But Crown and Skull slays the sandbox game, I would like to think. Very proud of the work that I did for sandboxing and so-called crawling. I I'm really proud and really excited for everybody to see how it handles that experience. And thanks for the question, Jake. Great topic. My man Tater's up in the house. Why is Hinla listed as a villain? Oh, so for those who don't know, there is a section in the player's guide about infamous villains in the North Holds, and one of the Dwarven Queens is listed. Tater's question is kind of like, why is the Dwarven Queen a villain? That doesn't seem right. She's just looking for this gateway between the corners of the world. Well, I suppose that's for you and your table to figure out. Why is she listed as a villain? Your stated goal and what people know about you probably isn't enough to know the bounds of your villainy. But I see her as an absolute tyrant. And I think the fun of that, discovering why is this, that makes for a good campaign. Burrito, what are your favorite crown hacks that you've employed? It's ignoring the defense and attack stats on monsters. That's probably my favorite hack so far. So all foes in Crown and Skull have a defense stat, which is going to be reduced from your damage roll. There are no to hit rolls in Crown. And an attack stat, which is a penalty against your defense roll when being attacked by said monster. But if you remove defense and attack stats on all monsters, everything becomes non-penalized. And it does remove aspects of difficulty, to be sure, but also streamlines things tremendously. Again, with a certain GM style, you're going to need to pull other levers and turn other dials to make everything feel the way that you like things to feel. But that's a great hack that I've seen. Who are the most important people for making Crown and Skull? Well, I guess besides myself, well, it would have to be all my normal creative confidants, right? The people that are around me, the close circle. And that could be most easily described as the shield wall, right? So there is a subset of my patronage and my readership, which is pretty big nowadays, which is about, I would say, 400 people. And within those 400, I would say about less than one, just right around 100 are the true confidants that really work with me to get reaction and to offer input in a way that's productive for me. So I don't really want to name all of them because there's a lot, but yeah. Vorpal, I don't know what you're on, but whatever. Okay, Alex McKechnie. Alex McKechnie. I like it. Yes, Heimdall long-term support is an understatement for Crown and Skull. We are going to be in here for a while. And I learned that about Index Card RPG. I was in there and still in there in many ways for 7 years publicly. Had been working on it for quite a while before that, but now I'm like, oh yeah, I could happily do that again. Alex McKechnie, is there artwork in the book inspired by your model of Caligos? Oh yeah, hey Alex, thanks a lot. That is actually just one of the avatars of Caligos. That is not Caligos itself. Is one of the things we discovered about your awesome sculpture that you sent to us. Caligos is an older, bigger being. So the artwork for the entity of Caligos is in the book, but it does not look like that creature that you created because that's one of the avatars. Metal, yeah. How games are comparison equals not good. Yeah. I'm right there with you, Metal Egg. If our local game stores wants to order Crown and Skull, is there a distributor they can come put? Yes, I am the distributor. If you can believe it, we have also set up retail distribution in our whole stocking and ordering system. We have built this machine to run. So please have the owner of your store contact me directly. We'd love to get a relationship going. Yeah, and hey, if you can't, Elder, I hear you on that one. Ducats are hard to come by. If you can't get the gold edition, the basic edition is still quite satisfying. It's made with the same wood-free paper. So this paper uses sustainable bamboo waste and other recycled paper waste. And it's got a really neat feel to it. And the cover is like something out of like sort of the like an old like Library of Congress vibe almost. It's this material called Arlen. And I really think the basic is really pretty cool. Sometimes the gold edition can be a little like overbearing, right? The basic one doesn't have that effect. Jesse, what's up? Since the game system of Dirty Jobs changes with each season, yeah, there's systems you're looking forward to playing or sticking with. Well, we're playing OSC right now. And yeah, I imagine we will probably glom back into Crown eventually. I think that's almost inevitable. Ryan, yeah, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Arbex again. Is there a specific mechanic incentivizes synergy in combat, like combos? I think a lot of the synergy in the game is not found in something like a combo, but more so in custom character creation. There are definitely synergies of equipment and abilities, of point limitations and point effects that can lead to extreme success in some very specific cases. Obviously, a lot of people start thinking into combat as the primary area for that. But I think combat gets way too much attention with character building. I think there's a whole universe of other neat things to build into besides just, hack and slash. So, yes, there's a lot of synergy, but not necessarily a combo. A combo is a very kind of Mortal Kombat kind of concept. Yo, Dane Johnston, what's up? As a divine caster, would you consider Wizard Savant as a viable core ability? You bet. And would you have it change to be based on faith instead of magic? I think that is a perfectly reasonable thing that would be asked of the GM, and the GM would just be nodding. So you're clearly like kind of deep in there. And that's another great example of like the book can never provide all the answers. It just never can. And to pretend that it can leads you into this sort of rules lawyer kind of vibe. You're always going to ask your GM questions exactly like Dane's question here. And that's what the game master's for. That's the relationship of player and game master that's so magical. So absolutely, like, let's build your faith-based caster, your divine caster, and take it where you want to take it. Let's work on it rather than just like, well, it says here though, or it doesn't say here though, which is even more common. Yeah, Bill, I'm really happy with it. And yes, Vorpal, is she thick? It is a substantive tome. Like I said, it's 350 some pages and glorious. There's both a sort of easy to read world atlas in the center and then a color world atlas on the inside covers. There's a section of illustrations. So something that might seem unusual to everyone is that all the art in this book is compressed into an illustration section. So the illustrations do not exist in the text. They are just in the illustrations section. And that's a practice that is very, very old in bookmaking that I wanted to capture. Like ancient bookmaking practices were a big inspiration for the way that this book is designed. How much playtesting went into Crown? Oh my goodness. So much that we threw out some of the fundamental decisions in the beginning. I would say just under a year of playtesting with between 3 and 8 groups at any given moment. So not large on the scale of, like a large company playtest, but plenty to take in, lots and lots of hours. Really, probably the most of anything that I've done so far. It was really deep. Did you have more focused mechanical test sessions? Absolutely. Yes. We would just pick a random monster, work through it, scratch the scene, start again with a different one. Joe Sterling ran a great one too, where we fought this giant crab monster and stuff. And he was a great help to me. Props out to you, my man, for sort of being that guinea pig. We played this whole sort of campaign where he tried to learn Crown as I was writing it to show me the pinch points of the learning process while we were the players. And so it gave me that crazy outside yourself view. If you're the game master of the book, the game that you're writing, of course you're going to do most things right. But you learn a ton when you watch someone else as a player, by the way, not a spectator. As a player, you watch a friend try to interpret your writing into gameplay. And woof, you want to talk about learning fast and not having anxiety over small errors. You just got to go with it. Brian is back. Off topic, but you aware that you live 2 hours away from Frazetta Museum? Yes, and I have been. Me and Professor Dungeon Master went together, and it was great. Definitely a must see for any Frazetta fan. Really cool. Here we go. Andrew, what's up? Looking forward to seeing more Crown happenings. Hell yeah. Perkins Dearborn. Now that's a respectable username. Ladies and gentlemen, the 2024 Community Architecture Award for Most Whimsical Doorway goes to Perkins Dearborn. Come forward. Get your award, please. Are the future Crown books going to be themed? How would you characterize? I am not going to spoil that, Perkins. No way am I revealing that. Not yet. We got to have fun with Volume 1 first. And later this year, about summertime, you will be getting some big announcements about what's in Volume 2. So I gotta hold that one close to my chest. I'm sorry, but that one has to stay private for now while I work on it. There's a thing with announcing things that it can kind of turn creativity into concrete once it's announced, and I need to stay in that nice plastic state for longer. Disagio, what's up? European distributor. Well, that's us. Suggestions on how to get it in Europe without paying crazy shipment. Well, I mentioned this earlier, but maybe you weren't on the stream. But we actually do an amortized shipping system. So we pay part of the shipping if you've got a faraway location. So we got you. You are not going to get an outrageous shipping bill. We got you, man. I'm not sure what you mean. Ballistics skill stat? I'm not sure what that is. Here we are. E is back. Why are you frog people such a big thing? They really aren't. They aren't a big thing. Everybody's just like latched onto them. They really are just one small little detail of it. But people love the frog people, and as I guess maybe they love too how I've presented them, which is definitely a little bit unusual. Yeah, they're not really like a huge thing. I think they're just there, and people are like, ooh. But I am a diehard lifetime Chrono Trigger fan, so I always love having frog warriors. No worries, DeSaggio. It happens. No worries. I hope that answers it though. If I want my yes, Adam, so they can contact me directly at hankerin.furinail@gmail.com. And my email address is all over the place. They can go to the website. They can jump on the Runehammer Discord, whatever. Find a way and contact me directly. And I appreciate it, Adam. Thank you. Brian, favorite schlocky or B-movie sword and sorcery inspirations? Oh, my gosh. Don't get me started. How about the Sword and the Sorcerer? How about Barbarian Brothers? Where you at with that? Where my Beastmaster people at? How about Ator, the Flying Eagle? What y'all know about that one? Huh? What about What about Neverending Story, y'all? Oh my goodness gracious. There's so many. I don't even know where to begin. I don't have a favorite. I love them all. It's like I said in some stream years ago. I was like, I like mostly period films like Conan because it's real. Jake's up in here. You posted 8 sessions of recaps to get an idea of pacing. How many hero points has your party accrued? Are there dangers handing out too many hero points? There are definitely dangers handing out too many hero points. Yes. Yes. Got to be careful with that. It's not so much that there can be too many of them, but it needs to travel with player learning. Players need to learn at a skill level where that amount of points is not going to bog them down, but that they're mentally equipped to have more points. For us, Karazhan the Clever, who's my character, I think has earned somewhere in the low 40s. We started with 0-point characters. So I think I'm in the 40s, the mid 40s somewhere in that much time. And absolutely love that character. Super cool character. In this case, the frogmen are kind of the opposite of Grogu, actually. They're kind of the worst. They're jerks. Oh, is the frog? Oh, yeah. Yes. On brand, right? That's pretty funny. During the creation process of Crown, which was the most significant moment in which you found yourself breaking a paradigm and loving the idea? Oh, man. Wow. Probably, well, it's between two things. It's either between attrition as the core system or there's no stats. Actually, it's probably that one. It's probably the absolute lack of stats. There are no stats, period. None. And at first, and this is, I think, also a topic that you'll be seeing as Crown grows and expands, is like, there are no stats. So what about X and what about Y? What about Z? Well, you got to change your perspective and change your mind frame to think in a less sort of vanilla kind of blobby resolution for various struggles and challenges. You can't just roll decks all the time. Trying to keep up here. Whew. Oh yeah, Deathstalker too. Absolutely. Hawk the Slayer. What's up? I mean, this list is so big. I I don't even know. I don't know what to do. It's crazy, man. What about Excalibur? Where Narnia at? You know what I'm saying? What about Krull? Where my Krull people at? You know what I'm saying? Woo. Here we go. Adam McClendon. Grogu in the sense that they're more now beloved. Adam's back. Will we see any Crown and Skull miniatures? Maybe. Miniatures can be a bit of like a brain sink. They can like eat up a lot of time and resources, and then nobody buys them, to be completely honest. So we shall see how the Viking Death Squad set goes. Those sculpts are almost done. So if we can get some traction with that, especially maybe selling them in the shop, which is kind of my dream. If that works out, then we'll like get more used to making those kinds of things. Well, yeah, I mean, Krull is fucking sick. Are you kidding me? Rel as a character resonated with me for years after I saw Krull. I made characters that were like Rel for years. He's kind of a gentle giant who knows he's doomed, but is like actually is a really good bro to have around. Like Rel was the bro. And I even named my characters Rel. I even have a character in my third novel named Rel. Like Rel was so huge for me. As a kid, I just remember how he got crushed in that big door, and I props to my man Rel, he was the bro in Crawl. He was really freaking cool, and he like made an impression on me. Was there an early version of Crown that had stats? No. Absolutely not. There was not. Remember that Crown and Skull grew out of some of the DNA of Viking Death Squad, which does have stats. But playing Viking Death Squad I didn't realize at the time, was part of the sort of learning process of visualizing Crown and Skull. I've got something horrible has flown into my eye. Oh God. It's a jellyfish from Saturn. I think it's a spider web, actually. There's a spider web in my eye, you guys. It's fucked up. I'm toast. It's been a good life, you guys. I've had a great time. Thank you, Internet, for embracing me, but I've got a spider web in my eye, so I'm probably about to explode. So if that happens, just you can say you were here, and then the video will get taken down. But I have totally got spider webs in my eyeball. Look, there's a lot here. Personal vendetta against perception roll. Yeah, there's nothing like that in Crown and Skull. Absolutely nothing like that. Matter of fact, a lot of characters get made and the player has overlooked that they really have nothing to roll for scouting or looking around or checking for extra detail. It's quite common in Crown and Skull characters that they do not have something to roll for what we commonly call perception. So they don't do it. It's just that simple. um Perkins is back. Stats being core to many RPGs, were there other mental shifts that took time to get? Oh my goodness, yeah, like the initiative system, the phase system in Crown definitely was a head shift. Thinking that some monsters could move at 9x the pace of a hero. That's kind of like, whoa, because I wanted to give players and GMs a more robust system to introduce challenge. And so the phase system does that. That was a big one. Cairn was a big help in seeing that attack rolls are not really needed. Um, that actually life without them. I also Into the Odd is where that DNA kind of maybe comes from, or at least for my experience. I'm sure it existed before that, but at first it can feel a little wild. It's a little bit Wild West. But the more you get into it, you're just like, this is sick. A lot like rolling the target in Viking Death Squad. At first, you're like, this is kind of crazy. What if I roll like really high or really low? Like, won't that ruin the encounter? But what you see in time is it's actually a blast. Um, have you ever been to Germany? I have. And what's your favorite drink besides German beer? Don't have one. It is my favorite drink. Hofbrau Original is my favorite beverage on the planet Earth. Full stop. Alex McKechnie. What material will Viking Death Squad? Well, they'll be printed in high grade resin, and we'll see which resin operates the best. And they're 28 mil scale. I mean, normal stuff. Yeah, my edgelord character. My name is Garzan McBlackheart, and I have spiders in my eyes. Wait, spider webs. I got even darker. Oh, another good one is Legend. Ooh. Oh, you gotta love Legend. Oh man, it is so dope. It's so fly. I mean, come on. You gotta love it. You gotta love the King Arthur one that with Clive Owen. That one was sick as hell. Oh my goodness. So many good ones. 13th Warrior, what's up? Oh yeah, Ice. Yeah, I remember Champions, definitely. We were all about that stuff. Brian Quito. Viking Death Squad minis available for online purchase eventually. Maybe. If they're like a hit, I find that people don't spend as much money on miniatures as you might imagine. In the Kickstarter milieu, they seem pretty successful, but I might be slightly unusual in that I am miniature nuts. I freaking love miniatures. I find that people are a little more willing to collect dice than they are miniatures. So I'm not sure where it's all headed, but we'll see. If people love them, then absolutely, we'll do everything to get them to the people. How does Crown compared when played Theater of the Mind versus minis? We play a blend, um, and I think like all RPGs, it does not need a board or miniatures in any way. Um, I don't think any RPG needs miniatures and a board. Even the most tactical grid-based games, you can just you can just wave away a lot of those 5-foot measurements. It's okay. You're gonna make it. I just think miniatures are really neat, and so we just like to rally around them. I just find that players are really enamored when they have a well painted miniature, and it helps them role play and it helps them see the scene with less questions. Dragonheart. Oh my god. I don't know if I would say that was fire, but it was it was all right. What about Lady Hawk? Where you at with Lady Hawk, bro? You down with that? Where you at a Reign of Fire? You know what I'm saying? You want to talk about dragon movies? How about that Dragon Slayer though? That's my shit right there. All right, cool. Well, we're slowing down with, I mean, we got a ton of people around, 140 peeps up in the spot. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And really, we're just like talking about Crown and Skull. And remember, too, I'm not just here to like shill my books necessarily, but I'm at the end of an extremely long process to get this to where they can just now be ordered freely. And really, I think it's where the beginning of the enjoyment will be, because like I said, PDFs, you have to be you're in somewhat of a rare breed to really enjoy an RPG via PDF. The way to enjoy books is books in your hand. And so we have gone on this wild journey to reach this point. So that's really the purpose of tonight, just to bask in it a little bit and to get some, the inside look about Crown and Skull before it really starts kind of hitting. Like these books are going to be arriving in your mailboxes like next week. So here it comes, y'all. The age of Crown and Skull. I really hope that in 2024, Crown and Skull is really one of the heavy hitters. I really hope. Obviously, I hope that. That's why I make things, is so people have fun with the stuff. What is your favorite mechanic in Crown and Skull? I already kind of mentioned it. I would say it's the absence of stats, probably. Dane Johnson again, for creating magic items. Right. Yeah, custom system. Am I correct in expecting I'm basically creating a custom spell linked to a physical object? Not necessarily, because spells have a cast to them, right? Gear in some ways can be slightly more valuable than a spell because it may not require invocation or casting. But the effects offered for what gear is capable of is a little more limited than a spell. Spells are crazy, right? And they're somewhat limited by, cast frequency. And more than one cast is in itself an effect, right? So I think when you get the book in your hands, you'll see the give and take with making a flaming sword. Do you want to make a sword that is a flaming sword, or do you want to make an ignite sword spell? You see, and what's the difference? And what am I going to get out of the one, and what am I going to get out of the other? And I think that very question, that fuzziness you might be feeling, is the fun. There is no one answer to your question. And I think that's what's fun for the hobbyist about creating these ideas. Tactics for monsters. Yeah. So John Sato, for those who don't know, all the foes in Crown and Skull use a tactics die roll whenever it's their turn to take an action. And a foe has 1 to 3 actions per phase. There are 5 phases in a round. And the fastest monsters will go in 3 phases. So they can have up to 9 actions in one round, whereas a hero would have only 1. So you can get some incredibly potent foes, but are they really allowed to use all their tactics in one phase? No, they roll for it. They use a die roll, John. So if, let's say you have a monster that has 3 tactics in one phase. So that phase comes around, it's phase 4. I roll 3d6 and I interpret those to do the 3 things that the foe does. And the d6 isn't even all of its faces aren't used. It's either a 1, a 2 through a 5, or a 6. And all the monsters are built that way. And I'm telling you guys, once you start playing monsters this way, you will never go back. Forbidden Lands did a similar thing. Dragonbane does a similar thing. It's a great way to keep tactics from bogging down the game master, like decision paralysis. Hunter, what's up? Welcome. Adam, I did describe spell creation and building at the beginning. I don't think I'm going to go through that entire thing again. So just when we're done here, just rewind that sucker and watch the beginning, if that's okay. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Perkin. Appreciate that. Yo, Sizik, what's up? First question coming up. I'm making a custom playlist for ambiance. You think Rhapsody of Fire will fit in? I'm not familiar with that at the moment. I'd have to look it up. The general guideline on making session music is 1, no lyrics. 2, definitely want more low frequencies than you want high frequencies. 3, you don't want lots of drums. And 4, you need a good variety of suspense and low mood, and then action or somewhat, wow mood. And always mix in a couple of instrumental beats to keep people from falling asleep or getting too cinematic. And you can check me out. My name on Spotify is Beee. And you can go follow all my playlists you want. I have a bunch of them. Will there be a German edition? Well, David, unfortunately, localization is a very not profitable game to play. I've localized a lot of my work, and either the markets are tiny or they don't know about me, or I'm not sure what it is, but the revenue from localization is not worth the effort. The effort is vast to do translations, and the output is tiny. So it's really hard to get excited about that. Um, Maybe when we're at a higher scale, but and I'm talking about even books with like Modifius doing localizations and just seeing very a lack of performance in other language markets. So maybe some growth will happen, maybe some change will happen there, but maybe I'm just also only known sort of in the States or something. I'm not quite sure what it is, but so far I've not gotten good uh positive reinforcement on doing those, especially for how much struggle and work they are to create. Hey Kane, thanks for the link, man. Okay. AI is good for easy localizing. No. Absolutely not. And then I'll just trust it. Forget it. I do like when a reader will do a translation. I think that's really cool. Just for do it on their own, bootstrap for their group. That can have really great results. But as a business operation with the amount of effort it takes, sorry to say, have not had positive experiences there. Well, you guys, I hear some pots and pans clanging and banging, and that means it's probably dinner time over here. Wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for tuning in, you guys, and thanks for all your interest in Crown and Skull. And the number one thing you can always do to support Runehammer or keep me going on this crazy journey is just to tell a friend and get to that dang table. Just get to that table and roll some dice and do this hobby that we talk about so much here on the internet. This is not it. This is just chit chatting and talking about it. Get out there, get those groups together and do the thing. Crack open those books, have the guts to just start a group and just go for it. That is the guts and the essence of what we do. All right. So, cheers, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Here is to an awesome year of Crown and Skull. Thanks for all your interest. And remember, if you got like a store where you want to see some of my stuff, or you just want to talk, or maybe you need some help on your own project, anything, just hit me up. Don't be shy. I'm on the Runehammer Discord. My email is hankerin.furnail@gmail. I'm on Instagram and all that good stuff. You know what's up. You guys enjoy your weekend and remember how we do it around here. This weekend, just find one person out there, just one individual person, and do one nice little thing for them. It doesn't got to be a big deal, but it could be. Just one little nice thing. And if every single person on earth did that, imagine the world we would be in. All right. So let's live that way. Strength, honor, and beer. Thanks, you guys. And I'll see you on the internet. All right. I'm out. Yeah.